The biting Texas wind screamed through the mesquite trees, carrying the sharp tang of blood and the faint cries of someone fighting for life in the dust storm. Jack Harlan bolted upright in his rundown shack, his calloused hand grabbing the old Remington revolver under his pillow. Through the grimy window, he spotted Harrah woman in ripped lace and denim, staggering across the barren plains like a specter from his darkest regrets. When she crumpled at his doorstep, her auburn hair fanning out over the red dirt like a river of fire, he couldn't have guessed this stranger would force him to pick between the piece he'd clawed out over 7 years and a passion that could unravel everything. But when those piercing blue eyes locked onto his, Jack Harlan saw his own reckoning staring back. Those were eyes straight out of his nightmares, the eyes of Victor Langston, the man who'd sworn to bury him. What happens when mercy pulls you toward the one person who could destroy you? And where are you riding this tale from tonight? The unforgiving Panhandle winds don't let go easily, and neither did Jack Harlan, though he damn well tried. For 7 long years, his shack hunkered like a forgotten grave on the edge of the Llano Estacado, 50 miles west of Amarillo, where the law thinned out and a man's sins could finally fade into the horizon. Or so he'd hoped. She was barely alive when he hauled her inside, her skin cold as a winter creek, lips cracked from the heat and loss of blood. The knife wound her side had soaked through her fancy riding skirt, blue fabric that screamed big city money, worth more than a year's wages for most ranch hand around here. This wasn't some drifter's kin caught in a dust-up. Jack had patched enough wounds in his rough days to keep his hands steady, even on a woman whose soft skin spoke of parlors and privilege, not the hardscrabble life of the plains. As he sliced away the bloody cloth, revealing shoulders untouched by sun or toil, she stirred. "Please." Her voice came out refined, like she'd been schooled in Boston salons, laced with raw fear that twisted something in his gut. "They're after me. They'll kill us both if they catch up." "Who's after you?" Jack kept his tone, even as he bound the wound with clean rags. Her eyes fluttered open, those storm blue eyes that would plague him, and she murmured, "I can't say. But if you've got any decency left, hide me." Then she passed out again, leaving Jack with a heap of questions and a nagging sense that trouble had just blown in with the sand. As he wrapped her in his threadbare quilt, he couldn't shake the pull, like destiny had ridden up in a storm, dressed in silk and secrets. She came 4 days later, calling herself Sarah Klein. It was a bald-faced lie. Of course, everything about her screamed otherwise, except the way she gazed at him like he was her last hope in a world gone wrong. "You pulled me back from the brink," she said, propping up in his cot, the quilt dipping to show the elegant line of her neck. "How can I ever make it right?" Jack averted his eyes, fiddling with a pot of coffee that was already brewed. "No need. Heal up and head out. This ain't no place for fine ladies like you." But she didn't head out. Sarah Klein, or whoever she truly was, had a way of turning his stark shack into something almost livable. She whipped up stews that reminded him of flavors from his old life, darned his shirts with nimble fingers that drew his gaze more than they should, and in the evenings, she'd read from a tattered novel she'd salvaged from her saddlebag. "Hear this, Mr. Harlan," she said one twilight, her voice warm by the flickering lantern. "The road not taken, but miles to go before I sleep. Robert Frost." Jack paused over the bridle he was repairing. "Yeah, I know it. Read some back in a day." She looked up, intrigued. "Before what?" That's when he should have sent her packing. Instead, he spilled about the books he'd loved, the man he'd been before turning recluse with bloodstains on his soul and echoes in his head. She listened as if his story were gold, making him feel seen for the first time in years. It was risky, this spark like striking a flint near dry grass. "You're different from other men," she whispered, her eyes tracing his weathered face, stirring embers he'd thought long dead. "Good, different, or bad?" Jack asked. She smiled, and damn if it didn't light up the room like a prairie sunrise. "Haven't figured it out yet." But Jack Hadda was tumoring hard for a woman whose truths he didn't know, and every gut instinct screamed loving her would torch them both. He didn't realize how spot on that was. The locket slipped from her vest pocket like a guilty secret. Jack snatched it up, twisting it in the dim light. Engraved inside, E. Langston, 1890. E. Langston. The name slammed into him like a gut punch, draining the air from his lungs. It all clicked: the high-end clothes, the polished accent, those blue eyes that had invaded his thoughts day and night. Emily Langston, daughter of Victor Langston, the cattle baron whose boy Jack had gunned down 7 years back in a dusty showdown in Abilene. "You planning to come clean sometime?" he growled. She froze in the doorway, fresh from tending the horses, dust still clinging to her hair. Her face went ashen seeing the locket. "Jack, don't feed me more lies." His voice rasped, harsher than he meant. "I've swallowed enough for a lifetime." She slumped into the chair, hands shaking as she took the locket. When their fingers brushed, a spark jumped, undeniable even in betrayal. "I didn't know it was you at first," she whispered. "I was fleeing, bleeding out, and you saved me." "Fleeing what?" The tale poured out in jagged shards. Reginald Voss, the oil tycoon who'd struck a deal for her hand, merging empires that would crush every small spread from Dallas to the border. Her desperate bolt west toward Mexico ended with a blade in her side from her father's hired guns. "He sunk a fortune into our alliance," she said, tears carving paths down her cheeks. "If I don't wed him, he'll ruin my pay-very hand, every family tied to our land. They'll lose it all because of me." Jack should have felt righteous. This was Langston's kin, weeping over messes not his to fix. But he saw only a woman caged by forces bigger than her, mirroring his own trap from one fatal shootout. "Your brother," he said softly. "Billy. It wasn't cold-blooded. Fair draw. But he was green and liquored up." Her voice dropped. "I know. You're not the villain Pa made you out to be. If you were, I'd be coyote bait by now." She rose, silhouetted against the window where starlight etched her in silver. Billy was wild, always bucking Pa's reins. She shrugged, pain etched deep. "Some folks are wired to shatter hearts, right?" The quiet stretched taut as a bowstring. "So now what?" Jack asked. "We both know this road leads nowhere good." Emily turned, her eyes fierce and vulnerable. "What if it could? What if we just vanished together?" "Running doesn't erase who we are, Emily. Don't wipe what I did to your kin." "Maybe not." She stepped nearer, her scent of wildflowers filling the air, her pulse visible at her throat. "But it could let us build something real." When she took his hand, he held on. When she leaned in, he didn't retreat. And when her lips met his, parted in silent plea, Jack Harlan surrendered to a sin that felt like salvation. The kiss started gently, probing like a first rain. Then she sighed, melting against him, and it turned fierce, his arms circling her waist, pulling her close as she yielded. She tasted of hope and hazard, everything he'd buried deep. "This is insane," he murmured against her mouth. "Then let's go insane," she breathed, and the lantern light played across her as she smiled. Outside, the wind wailed protests, but they were deaf to it. Nights on the high plains drag like eternity, vast and empty, forcing a man to wrestle his demons. But that night, in Emily Langston's embrace, Jack found heat that scorched away regrets. She approached like a vision, her cotton shift glowing in the ember's light, every sway a temptation crafted to break resolve. "You sure?" His voice was graveled with want and wariness. "I've never been surer," she said, easing onto the bed. "I'm done fearing, done letting others steer my life." Her fingers mapped a scar on his Armin Old Grays from his deputy days, and his skin ignited. "Tell me about this." "Saloon brawl in Fort Worth, 85, he rasped, breath hitching as her lips followed. "Thought he had me beat. And this." Lower, where a blade had nearly ended him. "Range war scrap. Can't recall the spark." He captured her hand, kissing it. "Emily, you don't." "I do." She cut him off with a kiss of fire and need. "I want every scar's tale. I want to etch new ones." She was stunning, the arch of her back in the glow, her hair cascading like autumn leaves, the gasps when his lips found her neck's hollow. But it was her gaze, seeing him as whole, that undid him. When she rose to meet him, nails scoring his back, he was adrift. When she cried his name like a vow, he was anchored. Later, limbs entwined in moonlight, her head on his chest, Jack grasped love, strikes unbidden fierce, ruinous, unstoppable. "What are you pondering?" she asked, voice sleepy. "That I'm a damn fool." "What?" "Falling for a woman I can't keep." She lifted her head, eyes earnest. "What if you already have? What if love bends the rules?" Before he could reply, coyotes howled, "Wait." "No." Horses whinnied distant. Emily stiffened. "They've tracked me." Jack grabbed his gun. The idol shattered. "How many?" 15 at least. She dressed swiftly. "Pa plays for keeps." Through the slats, lanterns bobbed like angry stars. Hooves thundering with spurs, jangle seasoned men circling like vultures. "The back door," Jack urged, loading rounds. "No." Emily's tone steeled. "I won't flee. Won't let you bleed for my spinelessness." "Emily." A bellows cut the night, laced with command. "Harlan, I know you're harboring her. Send her out, and maybe I'll spare you a quick end." Victor Langston had arrived, with a posse in tow. Jack peeked. 18 riders fanning out, rifles gleaming, hired killers with the swagger of odds in their favor. "Last warning, Harlan. Hand over my girl, or we torch the place with you in it." Emily joined him at the window. "Pa," she shouted. "I'm here, but I'm no pawn anymore." Silence fell heavy. Then Victor's voice iced over. "Always too headstrong, girl. But you'll toe the line. Voss wants his bride, and he'll have her." That's when Jack knew escape was a pipe dream. Some battles hunt you down, and guarding love sometimes means gambling all. He kissed her fiercely, tasting salt and steel. Whatever comes, loving you was worth the fire. Outside, shadows closed in. Inside, foes turned lovers braced for hell. Dawn bled over the Texas flats, staining the dusty ground crimson. 18 gunmen ringed the shack, steam rising from their mounts in the chill. At the heart, Victor Langston astride a bay Geldinga man of 60, iron-willed, ruling like a king over his vast spreads. "Emily," his command boomed. "Enough games with this murderer. Come home." The door creaked open. Jack emerged first, hands up but eyes scanning like a hawk. Emily followed, chin high despite quaking knees. "Hello, Pa," she called, voice carrying like a rifle shot. Victor's face flickered, paternal concern warring with fury then hardened. "You look worn, girl. This is what consorting with killers brings." "This is a choice, Pa." Emily shot back. "Something you've never granted me." "Choice." Victor's laugh was bitter. "You call wrecking our legacy a choice? Betraying the deal that saves hundreds of families." "Billy's Inn was no murder," Emily pressed. "Fair fight, and you know it." "What I know," Victor hissed, "is that Voss poured $250,000 into our oil ventures. He pulls out over your whims, and every soul from here to Houston starves. Is that your choice ruined for selfishness?" The jab landed. Emily paled, doubt creeping. Jack saw the chains tightening. "There's another path," a voice drawled from Victor's flank. Reginald Voss edged forward, 55, paunchy but eyes sharp as tacks. "Wed me freely, and I'll sweeten the pot. Your pa retains key wells, jobs stay intact. Bulk." He shrugged. "Contracts bite back." Jack boiled over. "She ain't going with you snakes." 18 barrels swung his way, hammers cocking like thunderclaps. "You don't call shots, Harlan," Victor snarled. "You're blessed to breathe this long." "Maybe," Jack said coolly. "But how many of yours bite the dust for your ego?" The air crackled, violence a heartbeat away. Then Emily strode center, voice slicing through. "Halt! All of you hear me out." "Emily, no," Jack began. She silenced him with a glare, standing regal amid the standoff. "Mr. Voss, you crave our oil stakes and routes. What if you get them sans wedding?" Voss leaned in, intrigued. Speak. A straight merger, 70-30 your favor. Full access, plus cash for the hassle. And the funds? Voss queried, slyly. From Paz Holdings? Naturally. After all, if Emily Langston perishes in a tragic ambush, lost forever in these badlands, her share funnels to him, honoring her last wishes. The hush was profound, even the breeze stilled. Victor eyed her with reluctant respect. You'd fake your end? I'd vanish, Emily clarified. Emily Langston dies in the dust, body swallowed by the plains. Pa, heartbroken, seals the deal she fled to Dodge. Voss nodded, scheming. Smart. But him. He jabbed at Jack. Loose end snag. What loose end? Emily's gaze was flint. Jack Harlan falls too, gun resisting. Shack was raised in the fray. Frontier hazards, you know. Jack got it was sparing him by erasing them both, paving a joint escape. Pa. Emily softened, the daughter pleading. Grant me this grace. Let me choose my fate. Victor studied her, seeing his own steel reflected. At last, he dipped his head. Boys, this never happened. Emily Langston and Jack Harlan perished here days ago. Rest his mop up. 3 years on, in a lush valley near Seattle where the Pacific mist softened everything, a woman named Maria Valdez watched her husband, Carlos, mend fences on their small farm. He moved with quiet assurance, hair cropped, face clean-shaven, hands gentled by peace. To locals, he was a settler from south of the border who'd what a local widow with fertile acres and big dreams. No one preed in the Northwest. Pasts were best left buried. The letter came that morning, scripted in careful English. Dearest Maria, the ventures thrive. Voss is content, though he gripes about his vanished fiancée. I spin tales of sorrow. The crews praise the fair, terms wealth softens, even tycoons. I think of you. May the rains bring bounty. Your steadfast ally V. Maria pocketed it near her heart, then joined Carlos at the rail, hand on the swell of her belly where their babe stirred. Word for back east, he asked, not looking up. From a friend, she said. Deals hold strong. Carlos nodded, grasping the unsaid. They'd torched their old selves in a Texas blaze, along with guilts and griefs. What rose here was humble, hard-won, but theirs. The frontier taught harsh lessons. Sometimes you shed all to claim your truth. Sometimes death births life, and love's worth eclipses empires. They were unbound, united, rooted, and that trumped any fortune the old world dangled. What do you think about this story? Should Emily have stuck with her family obligations? Or was faking her death the right call? Drop your take in the comments below. Agree, disagree, or share your own twist. Let's debate what you do at her boots.